Welcome to another episode of the Playful Lens. And in this episode, we're delighted to be speaking to Angela Cummins. And I'm really excited about this conversation because I know you're teaching in an autism class and you're going to give us lots of insights into what play looks like in that setting. Angela, would you like to introduce yourself to our listeners?
Absolutely, and thank you so much for having me. My name is Angela and I'm currently an autism class teacher in a DET Band 1 school in Dublin. Our school is quite unique. There's only two in Ireland and they are based on a wraparound model. So our school provides a creche, preschool, after-school facilities, two full-time play therapists and in-school support workers within our school, and it has great facilities. I went in to sub there 8 years ago and I am there. I'm in the autism class since September last year, and I had done 4 years in our autism class in 2018. And I suppose my background, I have a master's in education from Maynooth, and then I did the master's in autism in DCU, and I'm currently studying a doctorate of education in DCU.
It's fair to say, so Angela, you have a fair amount of expertise
Yeah,
when it comes to play in
absolutely.
an autism classroom.
Well,
So-
I'm still learning every day.
Every day's a school day.
Yes.
Would you like to talk to us a little bit about your take on play or the value of play in your setting?
Yeah, well, I'm really fortunate that when I started my career in 1998, I actually got to work with a play therapist who had moved over from America, and I was in an autism class at the time. We actually had 8 children and I had access for 1 hour to an SNA. So it was a very different setting to the setting that we have now. And I learned so much from Audrey was her name, and she was in my class 3 times a week for a set play therapy session with the class. So I, at that stage, didn't know anything about sensory play, didn't know anything about trays. I hadn't experienced anything like that. And I learned so much in the 3 years of working with her. And I saw myself how the children just absolutely loved all of the different sensory trays and different things that she did. And we were really fortunate at the time. Our principal sent herself, myself, and 2 teachers on a course in the UK. So sensory therapy at the time, it wasn't really something that a lot of people like were taught in the late 90s. So you definitely didn't have online platforms like this to have. You had to actually go in service training. And we went to the UK and we learned lots about body brushing and just all the different things that I had no experience of. And I think back then, like a lot of teachers wouldn't have had the experience. And I suppose that journey in that school, I was there for 3 years. There was also 2 speech and language therapists who were doing their PhD and actually were doing it in my classroom. So they were looking at, I suppose, the whole area of communication for the children. So I got to actually be part of, they actually videotaped the children in the classroom, obviously with parental permission and everything, and me. And then in the June, videotaped them again. And they, I suppose, analysed all the data that they had taken over the year and looked at all of the very small progress steps the children had made. But it meant for me as the teacher, I got to see firsthand the progress the children were making. So even though it was a little bit slower, they were making progress. And I suppose I was quite a young teacher at the time. So I was learning from every direction and from all of these fantastic experts. And some of them I'm still in touch with today. I moved from there then. I went into the inner city and I was in a DET Band 1 school and I was there for 5 years. And that was a whole other different experience and an experience that I'm very, very fond of. And as I say, I'm in a DET Band 1 school again now, and it's definitely, I think, the right role for me. I then went on to set up, I suppose I would have set up at least 6 different autism classes in 2 other schools. And then I suppose just most people know that different things happened in my personal life that I had to take a career step back for quite a while and then stepped back in 8 years ago. And that's been a complete change of career. I suppose in terms of, for me, play has always been such an important part of the classroom. And one of the most important elements every day for me as the class teacher is that the children see me having fun. And I am on the floor, sitting down most days, wherever I am, it depends. And I am playing, we're playing games, we're playing Lego, whatever it is. And I think a lot of the time people think that, oh, well, you know, you have to be following the curriculum and it all has to be, but it doesn't. You know, there's so many ways you can just incorporate the curriculum into play. And our day is very much for the children. It's fun. And they see me having fun. They see me being silly. I'm using puppets, like anything to engage with the children. Like if a child is emerging verbal, like you're looking at trying to encourage them to be beside you, to sit beside you, to look at you, to look at a puppet, to just make even expressive faces. So my whole day is, I suppose, if someone is looking in the window, they're thinking, like, what is she doing? And I think for quite a while as a teacher, I was probably quite self conscious. And certainly the last time when I went into the autism class in 2018, I definitely I would have probably held back a little bit because obviously you have three other adults in the room. None of us knew each other. And there I was kind of, do I do all the silly voices? And, I think after a while you get back into it and, you find it. But like the children in our class, like if I was to do a story and not do all the different voices, they would call me out on it.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I have all of my story boxes done and we have puppets and stick puppets and everything in each story box. And if I don't produce everything at the same time, because everyone's involved, SNAs, myself, the children, there's puppets, and I'm making every funny voice, whatever it is, and they love it. Like, but if I wasn't to do it, like, it wouldn't get away with it. Like, they know, like, and they really, really like that. And you see it like the progression for, like, say, and I was saying this to Helena about when in our class, like, it's very much based on the relate model and it's very much allowing children to find their space and be ready when they want to come over and listen to the story. So what usually happens is we'll do story time and I'll set up. And for quite a while, there was a child who wasn't really coming over, but I knew that they were listening and they were kind of sitting on the beanbag. So I just kept going. And then last week, the child just came over and stood right beside me and was like sticking their head into the book and pointing. And that for me, that's magic. Like and it's progression. That's the child feeling comfortable enough to actually come over, be with me, and also enjoy it and laugh and have fun. And like that fun element, I do things where I produce things out of boxes, magic trick things, or, and like even the girls in the class that work with me to be like, I just don't know what you're going to do next, Angela. But like, I'm just constantly trying to engage the children and they need to see me being funny. Like, they need to see me laughing as well. Like, so we do a lot of like, we do turn taking, which is something a lot of children find difficult. But we all do it. So we sit around together and I model and I'd say, like, I didn't get a turn. It landed on, no, I don't get a go. But children actually do need to see, like, I've seen it before in other classrooms where it's all very serious. And it's like, no, we're with children. Like, it's fun.
Yeah.
And so in our classroom, everyone's involved in everything. So snack time, we all sit together for snack. Yes, nays, myself. Would you like toast? Do you want to try the marmalade? Like, it's really, really important that children see our relationship as well and that we're looking after each other and that we're friends. Children see, they're watching all the time. And it's so important that the relationship in the room between the adults is really, really strong and really, really positive.
Yeah, I
And
agree.
yes,
And isn't that just like that's the same for every class? And for junior infants to sixth class, we should have that in every class, that relationship building and that positivity and that role modeling. Like
yeah,
with your sixth class, you can still role model that, hey, I didn't get a turn. Come on,
yeah.
guys,
Yeah.
I didn't get my turn. And it's so important.
And it's so you're doing it so beautifully.
Yeah.
Like when you are reading stories and you've one of your children who's off doing something else, but he's in the room, so he's listening. There's no forcing, there's no bribery, there is no sticker chart. Come over here, so, do I tell you to give you, so you'll get a reward. You're trusting them.
Yeah.
And you're so playful and so open. That means, that's massive cues of safety. I'm a safe
Yeah.
person. And I love, like, your relationship with the SNAs in your class,
Yeah.
so they see it and they experience it. Angela, that sounds magic. And it's so different. I think what I would have understood, I would have been, I suppose, I've never taught in an autism class. And I would feel very overwhelmed maybe at the thought of going into an autism class because I don't have experience in that area. But what you said there is like, oh, that sounds lovely. And there's no stress, there's no pressure
Yeah.
because I'm not putting that you have to do this and you have
No.
to do that.
And if you could let us know what time story time is, we'll be there for that.
We're calling for lunch,
Just story
please.
time sounds amazing. I'll be there for that, and then we'll have snack. I'll have some toast, please.
It's like, it's all of the little things. Like we get to go to canteen every day and the children all get to choose like what food they're having and everything. And it's such a it's social part of our day. Like we're part of the school and we're part of assembly and like all of those things are so important. And I still hear from other teachers in different schools saying like, oh no, like we're very separated and we don't join the rest of the school. And like that really makes me sad because our school is really inclusive and the children are part of the school. We are classes as part of the school. And it's so important that all of the classes, it's one school. We're not separated. Like we are part of the school. And for the children, like to experience like the big P hall that we have, or, to be around the mainstream, like we would be out and about. Like yesterday, we went for a walk in the park and like it's using the facilities around you, but also then things like we will actually go to the local shop and the children then can independently buy something. Or parents would say to me, if you're going on a trip, like we'd love to bring our child to a play centre, but it hasn't been successful for us. But for their sibling, like it would be really nice if they could go. And so part of what we do when we go to play centres, we go to the local playground and that's a really, really big part because it means then for families, we've tried it and it's gone well. Yeah, and it usually does go well. Then they can actually incorporate it and do it as a family. But things like going to the shop is a life skill for a child. Things like being able to get on the bus with their leap cards, like they're all things I'm very passionate about because I think that children leaving school should have all of those skills, no matter what class they're in. I think those life skills are really, really important. Being able to manage money, being able to get up and down on a bus, finding your way. Where is the local shop? Going to the post office was one we did before Christmas, and we posted cards as a surprise home to the parents, and they posted them all and put their stamps on, like little things like that. I just think they are really, really important in our class. And I think getting out and about and having that whole social part to the day is crucial for me. I think it's really good for the children. They need to be as part of everywhere, but also being out and about is so good for them.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree. I really agree. We are a fully inclusive school as well. Like you, our autism support classes they're within the school. They're not separated. The children are part of the whole school. And it's just lovely because you walk past any class and you're like, "Hi, Angela. Hi, Helena." And it doesn't matter what class they are. You acknowledge them, and we use love in our school, and we teach everybody love. So we do love at assembly with everybody, and all the teachers know it. And it's a lovely way to have that inclusion. And
Yeah.
we would do it with our nursery rhymes and our different songs, and just as part of it.
Uh,
It's lovely. But what you said there about that playfulness, for us to have that playfulness, it's so important, isn't it? And it's so hard when you have other adults in the room. I think for me, sometimes that's the hardest. Like I can go in and close my door and I don't mind what the children think because they love it. But it's
Yeah.
when somebody else is looking at you and they go, "What is she doing?"
I think most people in the school now know. I think definitely my first probably year in the school, I was very quiet. And then I kind of was like, oh, here, like, it's not really me in the classroom. I'm not quiet. Like, it's all about fun and it's all about engagement. And it's finding those magic moments where, a child might come over beside you with something and you're just engaging with them in that moment. And like, those moments are like, they're so important. But that relationship with the children is vital. I am really fortunate. Like I've really good relationship with all the parents of the children in my class, but I worked on that. Like I went in last summer, I met with the parents and I have to have a really good relationship with parents so that they trust me because they are handing their child over to me every day. And that's huge for a parent, and especially for a parent of a child who may be emergent verbal, who may be unable to tell the parent how their day has gone. So I would use our class dojo as basically a daily communication of photos of everything we do. So we bake on a Monday, and I tell you, our baking classes are just the best time ever. The cleaning up afterwards, it's like, but it's great fun and like it's great for parents then because they can actually see what we're doing and then I'd have like step by step of what we've made and then they can use it at home as well if they wanted, like, because their child has shown very clearly that they're well able to do it in school.
Amazing. My
So lovely.
gosh.
And like you say,
Yeah.
it's those life skills.
But those little
Like,
things are really the big things,
oh, they're
aren't
the
they?
big things. They're the
Yeah.
big things. Yeah. So lovely. So, Angela, like you mentioned sensory play there, like what does your day look like and how do you incorporate play so much?
The day, what does the day look like? Every day is like I plan for lovely days and then you know yourself, like, so I have great plans and then I go in. But in the mornings we have like, so we just have, it's very calm. The children all have toast when they come in the morning, and we just have like soft lighting, and the tables are set up. So we usually would have like sensory trays out, and we'd have every week we do kind of our tough tray has something in it related to what we're doing. Like at the moment we were doing all the Antarctica animals and everything. So we had that with shaving foam and rice, and the children can help as well, put extra things in, which is very interesting altogether. And then I'd have a couple of children who really love like water play and bubbles, and we blocked the sink a couple of times, so we've had to move that out a little bit. But we have all that, all those are there ready. And then the children that are integrating with SNAs go probably after about 20 minutes of being in the classroom. And depending, because obviously I have to work the SNAs around different times and that suit the class teachers as well. And obviously depend on the child's interest. So you have to kind of plan a lot in terms of that's kind of probably the trickiest part to
Yeah.
plan, I would say, making sure that each SNA is with a particular child, making sure that they're back for their break, that the child is integrating at a time that suits them and that also works well with the class teacher. So you're working with a lot of different adults to ensure that that timetable is working really, really well. So thankfully, I have the experience of having done that many times, and I finally think I'm getting it finally. And I think we're working out, it's working out quite well at the moment. Let's put it that way. So the children that are gone, then I'm in the class, then usually with 2 to 3 children, depending on what's kind of happening. And I would tend to just move between our kind of playstations, but we would be doing things like I'd be hiding things and then we would be counting our colour, depending on what I'm working with each child, because every child in our class is at a completely different level because I have senior infants up to sixth class. So it's quite a lot of different. So you're kind of adapting the whole time and you're differentiating all day. Like each lesson, even though if you've written it out that what way you're going to do it, the chances are on the day you might be differentiating again because maybe the child is a little bit tired and you're pulling back a little bit. Or so I suppose that part is quite like it's quite moving around because we find in the morning the children like to move around, and then I might have 1 or 2 children that haven't slept well. So you'd know that they're really, really tired. So you have to adapt your day for that as well and be aware that this child might really need to just chill out on the bean bag for a little while, and that's perfectly fine. And then I suppose we move into kind of a little bit more when it gets, I suppose it gets a little bit busier. Usually the rest of the children are back, and that's when we would start. I would start kind of type, I suppose we call it like our circle, but it's not really a circle. And then we would pass around, we do our check in on our feelings. So we have like mirrors, have emoji cushions, like we've so many different emotional regulation kind of helping children to express how they're feeling. So lots of different ways for them to be able to talk about it. And then we all talk about how we're feeling and what we might have done the day before. And sometimes we'll use pictures. So I'll ask parents to send in pictures if they'd gone to the park or something, and I can show everyone then, look, we went to the park, or I went to the forest, and look, this is what I saw, or things like that. And then we usually move into break. So they go to the garden at that time, then come in for snack, which is our social little break, which is lovely. And then it's usually into maths and literacy. So I split myself and I kind of go between different children and I'm working on that. Maths, we use Numicon, but we use it through play. So it's all kind of done through Numicon games. I did a really good webinar recently where I suppose I'm always just upskilling because I always am looking for better ideas to help and support the children. And I suppose we moved then into, I suppose, our next social, which is when we head off to canteen. And we're usually there for about 20 minutes. We come back, they go to the garden again. When they come in from the garden, we have very much kind of chill. Some of the SNAs might be on their break. So it's very calm and we have different activities out ready to go. Then we usually will be doing SESE, incorporating different, I suppose, depending on which children I'm working with. My sixth class child's working on a history project on Titanic and has actually built a Titanic model and can show you how they can actually how the Titanic came apart with the Titanic model. Like, so
Wow.
you're kind of between all of the different things that are happening and you're keeping up with everybody. And then usually for like I suppose that's kind of an hour of lots of different kind of stations. And then the last kind of 20 minutes we will be doing mindfulness, yoga. We have access to a ball pool and sensory room. So that's there throughout the day. It's not always accessible to us, but when we can use it, or if we think particular children need that little bit of extra time or they want to go in there, that's always an option. And we usually end our day kind of very calm, and then I bring the children out. That's a very quick synopsis of the day.
Of
But
course.
we
Yeah.
have on a Tuesday, we usually go on a bus trip, or we go out. And I've worked with the local kind of supermarkets as well, to just to have that kind of understanding that we are coming in with our baskets. And what we do is we would go around to staff and see, does anyone want anything? So, Gillian, would you like some Brennan's bread? And we're going to go to Super Value and we're going to bring it back to you. And the children absolutely love that, being able to go to a teacher or an SNA with, something they've bought for them in the shop. So we use visuals for that, where we've printed out the Brennan's bread and we've brought it with us on a little clipboard, and they have their money. Yeah, the things like that I just think are crucial
Wonderful.
myself.
Amazing.
But that is such an important life skill. And for the children to be independent, it's so wonderful for them to be able to do that. And I'm sure for parents, if the parents go to the
Yeah.
supermarket and then the child says, or it shows the bread, or for parents to, oh my gosh, they know where to get the bread, or they've got, that's incredible. That's absolutely incredible. And that's
Yeah.
amazing progress.
Amazing. Amazing progress. And it's so reassuring for a parent to
Yeah.
hear, isn't it, that
Yeah.
your child is so loved and minded
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
school.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a question, Angela, that I often get from teachers? They would say, if a child doesn't have very good play skills, where would you start with that?
Well, I would just go back to basics. So it could be even just, I suppose, well, one of the things I'd always say is find the child's interest. So if you can find out from the parents, and that's where I would spend a lot of time with parents before I start working with their children. And my whole goal there is finding out, what does their child really like? And parents will know, and parents can tell you, and they can tell you whether they like, I had one child, I remember the mom telling me, oh, they love rolling balls around. And I just got a load of, like, the little bowling plastic balls. Child was not interested whatsoever. And I went back to mom again. I said, well, what you were saying about, I said, we got it. And she was like, no, tennis balls, like obviously the weight or the feel. But of
Yeah.
course didn't know. So, but I think going back, trying to get that information is key. And like, I suppose for that child, like the child was very reluctant to come into the classroom, let alone, like, I suppose the transition from the door was really difficult. So I start rolling the tennis balls up and down the corridor. And like, I've done that with children where they're just, that transition into the building was really difficult. And it took quite a while for the child to come in. So, like, using things like, say, things like bubbles, we follow the bubbles. Do you want to get the bubble? But the child has to build a relationship with you first. They're not going to just head on into the building because I'm blowing bubbles. And like, it took for one particular child, me sitting outside blowing bubbles on numerous occasions before the child actually moved into the doorway with me. And I remember at the time the mum had said to me, I just don't think we're ever going to get the child into the building. And I was like, no, we will. But we have to do it slowly, and we have to do it on the child's terms,
Yeah.
because all you're going to do, if you're going to try, if a mom, like a parent who says, oh, I'll carry my child in or something like that, you're just going to distress them. And
Yes.
that's the last thing you want, because if the child is coming in distressed, they're going to associate the building and me and everyone else in the building as distressing. So I suppose I would always peel it back in terms of trying to engage with a child. I'd find out what is it that they actually really like. And if you can have that, the other side of that is, and you'll both know this, that there's children then who love particular things at home, and then when they see them in school, they're not interested. And I would have the exact same thing in with parents, where they'd say, I tried that, I tried the Play-Doh, and they wouldn't go near it at home. And in school, they're like, just absolutely love it. So, I suppose I would use my parents as to try and find out as much as I can, because they know their child best. So in terms of trying to find what it is that their child likes, but then I'd have all my usual things, my go-to things that I know that kind of children might like light up. Like, I've so many light up things and stretchy things, and there's one that the children really love, and I take it out and I kind of pretend it's really small, and I have it in my hands, and then all of a sudden I just start swinging it around, and it goes really far. It's really long, but it lights up lots of different colors. And like, most children are just fascinated, and especially the fact that I'm obviously kind of getting very giddy and shouting, and I won't do that impression, but they just want to see that fun. Like, so I suppose you'd have to really find what the child likes. And that can be a lot, trying a lot of different things before you find it. But it's having all the different things there to just try and see what they like.
Yeah.
But one of the most important things that's kind of standing out to me is you could be doing all of that, but not in a playful manner. But the fact that you're doing it all in such a playful manner, as you say, you're getting giddy, you're enjoying it. That's what's engaging as well.
Mm.
You know, you could have all these wonderful resources, wonderful things that you're doing. And if you're just flicking that light up thing and you thing and you're like, yeah, come on in. Are you coming in now? Are you coming in? That's not engaging, no matter what you have. So it's actually all comes down to us, doesn't it? It comes down to our playful mentality and our playful attitude. And that's just so important, isn't it?
And I think you have to remember for children, like when you do really silly things, they think it's really funny. And I suppose, like, when I'm talking about, like, swinging a thing around, like, I'm actually letting on that I can't catch it and what am I gonna do? And I'm like, "Oh," like, they just think that's hilarious. And so, yeah, I forget about whoever's in the room and I'm focusing in on these little faces who are breaking their hearts laughing. And that's magic, like, because they are building that relationship with me and they are seeing me and they're also seeing the S and A's in the room breaking their hearts laughing at me.
Yeah. But isn't that the most gorgeous sound is the children laughing like
Yeah.
that? And you know that
Oh,
real deep laugh, the belly laugh. I love that. It's so that's every time that happens, I just doesn't matter what class I teach, I just go, yeah, that's it. That's I'm done.
but I had a really magic moment with a child who was really had very little verbal. And I was doing kind of something similar, like just joking around and trying to just engage. And I had this like box that I'd open and like things would pop out and then I'd close the box really fast. And I closed the box. And the child actually said, again, Munter Angela. And I had never heard the child say my name. I'd never heard the child, like the child had very few words. I actually was sitting on the chair looking, and one of the girls that was in the room with the SNAs at the time, and she was like, "Did you hear that?" I was like, "Yeah." And it was just such a moment, like, and I said, "Did you say again? We'll do it again." And of course, just went and did it again. But I remember I went into the office and I phoned the child's mom, and I was just like, wow, like, it just showed us that the child actually had more than we realized. And how are we going to engage the child this way? So we found, I suppose, this was the way we were going to really engage with this child is all of the really silly things were going to become our way of teaching the child. Like I used things like that to teach that child up, down, under, over. And I was doing like, yeah, fun things. I would use a lot of, I suppose, my secrets are coming out. I would use a lot of like we have a doll's house, and I would use that a lot, showing the children up, down, and just different things. Or I'd hide things, and they have to find them. Like they love all of that type of play. But like if it means that you're down, you're under the table, then you're under the table. Like I suppose that's where I come from, and when I'm looking at education now, like I model for the children what we're doing and I'm trying to constantly show them because they need that language and they need to be able to learn that language. And like plenty of other schools, we don't have access to SLT and a lot of our children are not accessing any SLT. And I'm not a speech therapist. So I am trying to give the children the best that I can, like for them to be able to make those speech sounds. So you're modeling and you're trying your best, but you're going on kind of what the experience you've had before. Or, I just think that you're constantly modeling for children all day. And
Yeah.
I think that's really important.
Yeah. But isn't that what they remember though? Like,
Mm.
doesn't matter what class you're teaching, if they'll remember, do you remember the day Miss Corbally was under the table? Or do you remember the day Miss Corbally was up on the table? And they've got the concepts then because you've done it physically. Under the table, on the table. They get it. And that's what they remember. Isn't that wonderful?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was quite funny. We had a few years ago, and I think it was like my fourth year in our autism class. And we used to do on a Friday, they had this thing about being the teacher. So I'd allow them all to have a turn on, like, you could be the teacher. And I'd sit as a pupil on the little chair. But I remember one of the children and I didn't put up my hand. I think it was something like this. And he was like, and he said, but you're the real teacher. And I just remember I burst out laughing because like in his head, he was like, but she's not going to do that because she's actually the teacher. Like, oh, but of course I was acting like I was a student and I was like, well, I can do whatever I want. It's great. But it was just funny, that student's now in 6th class, and he reminded me of that recently, of that moment. He was like, just couldn't believe you did that." I was like, "Yeah, I did."
I remember my second class teacher doing that, and I remember she sat down and, maybe I was the teacher, I don't know, and I remember asking her, "Mrs. Costello," and she was, like, looking around her, it's like, "That's not me," and she was waiting for Marion, and I do that when I play that, when I swap now and I'm the student and they're like, "Miss Lean," and I'm like, and it's just so funny to hear them go, "Just
It's
brings
so
such
funny.
fun,
Yeah.
doesn't
So funny.
it?"
So lovely. Your classroom just sounds like an absolutely magical
A
place. I want to come
magical place,
in.
a magical place. And do you ever, like, do you ever, how am I going to word this properly? Do you ever worried about, Angela, progress and progression? Because you've given us, like, from listening to you, if a child, maybe they have maybe poor play skills, you're very clear on you have to start with their interests, you have to link in with parents to find that out, and you have to model it and be really, really playful yourself and be curious and try loads of different things. Do you ever feel this need to, okay, they're really interested in the Lego now. How am I going to get them into something different? The way sometimes as teachers, we put this pressure on ourselves that we feel like we need to bring children into different things. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think, like, I suppose maybe it is with experience, but certainly in our class, the children are everything is there and everything's available in our classroom all the time. So I see in other classrooms where, like, everything's kind of locked away, and if you need the ear defenders, you have to ask for them, or whatever ways other classes do them. In our classroom, ear defenders, all of our different fidget toys and everything are all accessible at the children's level all the time. I think that's really important. In terms of moving children on or progression, I see progression all the time. And, like, things like, someone was asking me the other day, what was I doing? I was doing a tricky word game with a child, and I can see from even just that game how much more tricky words the child has, say, or things like that. I probably don't put myself under the pressure that I would have before. And certainly when I would have been in our class in 2018, I would have put myself under a lot more pressure then, that I had to show all this progress, that I had to have all of assessments, everything had to be. And I suppose, look, then that was the way we were told it was. And we actually had a special education inspection at the time. And the inspector actually was very happy with my work and the assessment. But the only issue was that we were not at the time exposing the children to Irish. So we brought that in then. I think that now, myself as a teacher, I can see the children's progression. And I'm very aware that the children can learn in lots of different ways. Do you mean that, like, would I be trying to move children off particular topics onto other topics, or?
Yeah, I just remember being asked about, like, they love playing with Lego. How do I get them interested in playing with the magnetites? I think it's, how do I broaden their horizons or how do I expand their experiences? But I think from what you've said there, because you have the resources readily available.
Yeah, and I think that children are naturally curious. I think they see other children playing with different things, and they mightn't actually gravitate towards it straight away, but you would see over time. Like, I see it all the time in our room where particular children would have really struggled to even just be close to another child in the room, would prefer their own space, and that's perfectly fine. But we see now, like, and just certainly over the last few weeks, I think, like, this class have only come together since September, so they weren't all together before. So that's a huge change for all of the children. And we were all new staff to the children as well. So those kind of things are big, big factors in the classroom. And I'm very mindful of things like that, that, we're all coming together as a whole new group of people and children together. But we've seen over the last couple of weeks where particular children are kind of gravitating towards each other. And, like, I've a particular child, say, that loves animals, and another child loves roller coasters. And we were playing with the animals on the floor, and the other child came over pulling a mat and stood the mat up and put one animal down the mat. And I said, "The hippo's on a roller coaster." And the child started laughing. But the other child then thought this was really funny. And both children started to engage with each other, naming the animals as they were sliding down the big roller coaster. And I just moved back and watched. And, when I see these moments, like, for me, and I have a student with me in at the moment, a psychology student actually, and I was just saying to them the other day, I said, like, these little moments, these are the magic moments in our room. and you will see one every day. And one of the things, like I volunteer in Barrettstown, and I, one of the things we always talk about is magic moments. And when I moved back into our autism class in September last year, that was one of the things that I decided that every day I would write down a magic moment. Now, my magic moments are things like that. My magic moments are a child coming in the morning and not feeling sad. There's lots of little things, and they're very little to everybody else, but they're magic moments to me because it means that for the children, they're happy, which is my main goal. They're content, they trust us, and they're having a good time. And so to see two children who were not engaging in play with each other at all, to be now engaging in play on a daily basis, or to see another child go over and help a child get their beaker, like those things for me are,
Amazing.
that's the magic.
Yeah.
I have a book recommendation for you. So for those two children, they might enjoy it. Have you heard
Oh,
of this
yeah.
book? You Can't Take an Elephant on the Bus. My
I don't
two
think
boys.
so.
Oh, you have to get it though. These two children will love it.
Yeah.
The two boys at home love it. We love it so much. There's a few of these different, you can't take the elephant or whatever, but you can't take the elephant on the bus. So it starts off, you can't take an elephant on the bus for these reasons. You can't take a pig on a skateboard. You can't take a whale on a bike. It goes through all the animals, and then the animals say, but how will we travel? And at the very end, they all go down the roller coaster.
Oh, no way. That's
So they,
perfect.
yeah, I know, when you were talking about the animals and the roller coaster, and I was like, I know the book.
Oh, they love
Yeah,
that.
they
Oh,
love
I'll
it.
definitely
They
get
love
that.
it. And like they've already kind of nearly flipped it. Like you would read the book as the stimulus and then do the play, and they've done the play first.
Yeah,
Yeah,
And
that's
I
brilliant.
love, it's so reassuring listening to you because I suppose as a therapist, I'm very much like, we need to trust the child.
Yeah.
We need to trust the children. They know in their bones what's right for them. And listening to you, you have such trust in the children. You manage the environment and you facilitate that. But it's like they just unfold then, Angela.
yeah, they're super.
Super.
Yeah, it's
That
fabulous.
was such a brilliant chat. Are you ready for your rapid fire questions?
Okay, yeah, I'm just trying to remember these now. Okay, go.
Okay,
Okay, official.
very official questions. What was your favorite thing to play with as a child?
I loved Lego, but I only got my first Lego set when I was 10, and it was a little yellow house. But I brought my own children to Lego House in Denmark 2 years ago, and they actually had the little yellow house on display. And I was showing my children, I was all excited. Like, I was like, oh my God, that was my first Lego set. And they were like, that was in 1984. I was like, yeah, well, yeah, Lego. I love Lego, still love Lego, and my youngest son has a whole room full of Lego. So Lego, Lego, Lego.
Life will love it. And if you had a stick to play with, Angela, what would it be?
I would say probably a fishing rod. Yeah,
Love it.
Fishing for Lego.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And who nurtured or nurtures your playfulness?
I think I said certainly my own children really keep me. I have three adults and a teenager, and they keep me so young because they're constantly either pranking me, joking with me, slagging me, taking funny videos of me that I don't know, and then sending them to me when I'm not expecting it. So they definitely keep me very young.
They keep you playful.
Yeah.
And what is a playful habit that you have never grown out of?
I think that playful. I don't know, I suppose I'm always up for a bit of laugh and I'm always up for a bit of fun. I think that would be probably for me, the playful side of me. And I'd be a bit of a messer as well. Be a bit of a joker. I would um yeah, I'd be a bit of a trickster.
Sounds good. I like it. That's where your children got it from.
Yeah, I know. Now they're getting me back.
It's not off the ground, they licked it. And what is a small joy that you look forward to every day? I know you mentioned the magic moments, but a small joy that you look forward to every day.
Yeah, definitely the magic moments. And then usually on my way home, actually, now I've got into this really good habit. There's a forest quite close to where I live. And on my way home, because I'm not collecting everybody, I have to collect them later on in the night. But I stop there and I go for a walk and
Oh, lovely.
just. I used to kind of avoid it in the rain, but now I actually do it every day. And I just, even if it's 10 minutes or an hour, and I just kind of, yeah, just it's very calming. And then I come home and do the usual things that every parent is doing, making dinners, then driving to collect somebody else, then trying to figure out what I'm doing for college. And yeah,
Yes, yes. Putting on a wash.
yes,
Yeah.
many, many times.
Yeah. Yeah.
Angela, thank you so much. That was just such an insightful conversation. And like, You just shared so many nuggets there that, like, listening back to it, I hope that teachers and parents and SNAs lean into what you've learned, that trusting children and being playful with them is magic.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It's been lovely.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Oh, we'll be in for story time.
Yeah.
No pressure.
Thank you so much to Angela for giving her time to chat to us. We really enjoyed that conversation, and the magic moments are something that will definitely stick with myself and Helena, and I hope that they stick with you too. As always, we'd love to hear your feedback on this and any other episode that you might have enjoyed. And if there are any episodes that you liked, make sure that you share them with your colleagues, your friends, and anybody else you think might be interested. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications.